Hi, I'm Brandy Sargent, editor of Cell Culture Dish, and joining me today is Knut Niss, Chief Technology Officer at Mustang Bio. I wanted to start by asking you, an important question in cell therapy is how will you track patient information? And I wanted to find out how will you do that with your autologous therapy?
Yeah, so the keyword you use is autologous. So an autologous, just so everybody is aware, means that we track the patient from providing the starting material. In our case, we do CAR Ts, it's T cells, back to the infusion of the final product. So it's very critical for us to understand where the product is at any time, and where the patient, and that the patient matches the product that will be infused. You can imagine if you infuse the wrong product to the wrong patient, these are T cells, this will be a very devastating effect. So being a small company, we contemplated using good old paper and mechanisms like that. We decided to actually implement an IT-based system called TrackCell, simply because we anticipate that we grow rapidly and we have multiple assets that we want to follow. So having an IT-based system really allows us to take it out of the paper trail, the hands-on, really putting it into the cloud basically, and manage it from there. The system will be at the clinical side, it will be at the manufacturing side. On top of allowing us to monitor the product and the patient, we can also coordinate, which is, I think, even more critical. So by coordinate, I mean that we can tie the manufacturing schedule to the clinical schedule. So in other words, if we start a new patient, the clinical side will see our manufacturing schedule and will coordinate the patient schedule according to it. So we should not run into a situation where the patient, for example, undergoes an apheresis, ships the material to us, and we will then not be able to manufacture because we were not aware of it and other things.
Right, and how, can you explain how your approach is different than others?
Yeah, so as I said, we are a very small company at the point. At this time, we are like around 30 people. We are still in the startup mode. I think many companies in our situation are not as forward-looking. This IT-based system is really designed for really more later stage clinical trial when you have multiple patients at the same time, commercial eventually. We decided that we want to invest early in these things, simply because we anticipate that with multiple assets we will have success, and that we want to go through the clinical development very fast. So rather than catching up down the line on implementing the system, we wanted to make sure that when we hit the ground running with multiple patients at the same time, that it's a smooth sailing. So that's certainly one difference. The other difference, I think, as a company, is that we do our own manufacturing. And that's a critical piece. We are in the autologous CAR T space. Manufacturing is, if not the most critical component of the therapy, it's one of them. And we wanted to control that. Control means that we wanted to be able to control the capacity, so we can manufacture product for patients when they come, and not tell patients, you have to wait a month because we don't have capacity, etc. So that certainly separates us from others.
And with cell and gene therapy growing so much, where do you see bottlenecks coming up in the industry?
Yeah, I see multiple. So one is what I just mentioned, the capacity of manufacturing. To be honest, after we announced that we're building our own manufacturing, now that I pay attention to it too, I see many other, much more companies now doing the same thing. I think here in this area, Rubius Therapeutics just announced a while ago a pretty significant investment. So there's an example there where companies, even the preclinical, not even in clinical development, recognize that manufacturing needs to be considered in-house, and more companies follow. So that's one. The other bottleneck is certainly QC. QC is an area that, in my view, has not been discussed enough. We always talk about cost of goods, we pay attention to the process side. QC is a very heavy cost item, but it's also a capacity item. So we need to find better ways of managing and streamlining QC assays for the large capacities.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today from Boston Biotech Week and on BWB TV. I really appreciate your time. It's really interesting.
Thank you. I very appreciate it. Thank you.